as you pass by your daily life, walking in the streets, going shopping, you may be passing by people so extraordinary that if you got to know them, your mind would be blown. Hey guys, and welcome back to today's video. Please consider subscribing if you are new to my channel. Today we're going to be covering first date encounters that some of my subscribers went through, and let's just say they are a lot to take in. So grab yourself a coffee, relax, make yourselves comfortable, because these encounters are truly unbelievable. The first encounter that I have been studying recently is from a lady who we will be calling Ellie. Ellie is over in France, more specifically the south of France. And this is unique because here on my channel, I am yet to feature any type of encounters or sightings that took place in France. Now, the south of France is full of castles, you guys. They are everywhere, beautiful, like palaces. And I believe that France is one of the most heavily castled countries in the whole of Europe. It is the country that has one of the highest counts of beautiful castles. Now, if you were walking by someone in the street, what if I told you that person could be really, really powerful? What if I told you that person could be someone who makes decisions on a global scale? Someone who has control and power that you couldn't even fathom? Well, Ellie wound up on a date with a guy just like this, and today she wants me to share her experience. Ellie was using a dating app. She had recently come off 3 years of no dating after sadly losing her mother. It was a lot for her to take in, and as you can probably imagine, you wouldn't really want to be dating during a time like this. Now, a lot of people get over these griefs quicker than others, but Ellie took a long time. 3 whole years of no dating, nothing. Just working, living life, and doing the monotonous routine. Once she finally started to use dating apps again, she realized that once again it was going to be tough to get back into the usual rhythm of going on dates. The first person she got a match with was a total flake. She ended up just never messaging him again because every time he tried to message, she would not be available, and then she would respond and he would just ignore her when she responded for days, thinking that they were playing some kind of a hard-to-get game. That didn't come to anything. It fizzled out completely. The second match that Ellie got was pretty decent. She ended up going on a date with a guy, but it wasn't successful. The third match that she got was the one we're going to be discussing today. It was a guy who we're going to be calling Raphael, and Raphael was not your typical guy using dating apps. Let's just put it that way. Ellie realized that Raphael wasn't like the other guys, and the first thing that made her realize this was that he wasn't talking in a rather creepy, questionable tone. When a guy texts, Ellie said that she can tell if he has confidence, if he's got interesting charisma and personality, and nearly all of them on the dating apps, especially nowadays, don't have that anymore. And unfortunately, she just gets really frustrated with it because she likes confidence in a guy, but a lot of them don't seem to have it, or when they do, it's false confidence based on their car or something. Raphael was different because she said that the first thing she realized was that he was typing these messages as if he really didn't care if she just deleted him, unmatched and left. And Ellie said she had never had that with any of the guys. The situations would always come off needy, almost like begging, as if she was something that was a prize to get. And don't get me wrong, she kind of liked that feeling. It gave her a bit of power. But she said it wasn't what she was looking for. She wanted someone who she could respect, someone who was strong and had their own career, someone that could be equal to her, not below her. And when she found Raphael, she was attracted to his no cares given attitude. Now don't get me wrong, that could have been one of the first red flags, and probably was. She started talking to him more often. He gave her his number and they started messaging back and forth, texting. A couple of weeks pass, and Raphael is continually pushing Ellie to come and meet him at his house. He called it a house at the time. Nothing like a house. Yeah. So Ellie's just a bit weary at this point. She doesn't go round random guys' houses on the first date. So she says to Raphael, look, I don't want to go round your house. I'm sorry. I like you. Can we please sort out like an alternate, destination where I can meet you somewhere else? Can we go out for a drink beforehand? And like maybe we can set up a second date and I can get to know you. And Raphael seemed totally distraught by what she was suggesting. He was like, what? You don't want to come to my house? Again, Ellie still just thinks it's a house, and this guy's being super big-headed and overconfident. He's extremely demanding. He's extremely angry, and she somehow liked the drama. And she said it probably wasn't a good thing, but he was just different to all the other guys on the app. Eventually, they came to an ultimatum. If she went and got drinks with him, he would consider setting up a second date where they could then go back and have a house party if she brought some friends. And Raphael cooled down a bit, stopped using some of his choice words in French, and as the British say, excuse my French. But the truth is that Raphael was giving off unusual vibes. This guy was not normal. Now, she described Raphael as having dark, semi-long, curly hair, and it was roughly down to just below his neck, or the middle of his neck. And he was 6 foot to 6'1" roughly, so he was a rather tall guy, and quite attractive, she said. She said to me that he was her type. So that's another reason. The personality drew her in, and also his looks. She liked him. His facial features were her type. So fast forward to the night that they go out for drinks. Now, this particular night was still in the south of France. It's in a particular town near where his quote-unquote home was. So they go to get drinks. Ellie gets a lift down from her friend, and she arranges to get picked back up by her friend at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, depending on just how things go. She'll keep her updated over her phone. She gets there. And this Raphael guy is absolutely full of himself. He's ordering the bar staff around. He's clicking his fingers. He's whistling at people as if they're like cats or something. It is horrific. She said that she was very kind of turned off by that moment because she was looking at how disrespectful he was to people working waiting jobs, or even just the other people in the bar and people having food and getting drinks. He wasn't a nice guy. And she said she should have left at that point. She should have said to him, look, Raphael, can you stop this? It's embarrassing. Or just, I'm going to leave. Sorry, bye. But she didn't do any of that. Okay, this is a lady who just lost her mother 3 years prior, had come off a period of not dating, and had now met a guy who was overly confident and her type. She was attracted to him, but she didn't like him. And some of the ladies watching this video might understand that feeling where she didn't like the guy. She thought he was a nasty person, but she was very attracted to him. And she tried explaining this to me, and I couldn't quite understand it. But apparently she said some of the ladies will understand this. And while she was talking to him, he would continually cut her off and tell her that she was wrong, tell her that her opinion wasn't right because of this and this. So this guy has the whole aura of someone who is very stuck up and very spoilt from the younger years, let's say. So Ellie has drinks with him. They drink, just a normal amount. They get some different things. And then she messages her friend. And at this point, he's nagging. He's like, why won't you come back to my house? It's a beautiful house. Come back. It's amazing. You're going to love it. And Ellie's just sat there like, look, we arranged that we would do this date, and then I would come back to the house another day when you have a house party on with my friend or my friends, multiple. And he got really angry, caused a scene in the bar, and went storming out. And this left Ellie looking silly in front of everyone in the bar, and she got embarrassed. She goes outside and he's paced off down the street in this little town in southern France, and he's nowhere to be seen. She's waiting outside, and the guy comes by in a brand new, car people watching this, on a Rolls-Royce Cullinan. And she didn't know what the type of Rolls-Royce was. She just knew it was a Rolls-Royce because it had the RR on the back. And we looked it up. I showed her all the different makes, and she said it's that one. It's a Cullinan, which is the 4x4 Rolls-Royce. And depending on what spec you get of this car, you're looking at between, in dollars, like $400,000 to $700,000. And this guy was young, like he was in his 20s. So let's just remember here, this guy is driving around in, let's just say, a $700,000 car. The insurance is probably thousands and thousands of dollars. And he is very stuck up, very disrespectful to everyone he meets, even Ellie, who he was clearly dating because he liked her and was attracted to her. But maybe he had some kind of ulterior motive. Well, let's see, because this goes way, way deeper. So Ellie gets her lift home from her friend. She's all yapping the whole way there. Oh, he did this. He was so horrible. He said this to the waitress, and she looked at him, and I nearly spat my drink out all over the table. And they were loving it. The drama on the way back was intense. And at the end, her friend got to her house, went to drop her off, and just said, look, Ellie, I don't think meeting this guy's a good idea. I don't think we should go to his house. He might have a Rolls Royce. He might be attractive. He might be super confident and a leader. But this could go really badly. And Ellie, being slightly tipsy with the alcohol she had been drinking with him, didn't really take that warning as seriously as she should have, and instead made the decision to think about it. Now, he didn't text her again till a few days, and she thought that maybe because she didn't go back with him, that he had just given up, basically. Because a guy like that, probably just dates loads and loads of ladies, and although some of them might be in it for all the wrong reasons, he could get that kind of attention if he looked elsewhere. Now, Ellie left it, and she basically let him make the next message, which was quite a clever thing to do. And sure enough, he messages on the third day after the date and says, so are you going to come to the house? Got a party arranged next Thursday. And Ellie doesn't respond for a few hours. Instead, she picks the phone up, she rings her sister and her friends and says, do you guys want to come with me to this party? And the first thing they all arrange is to find out where the house is. And this is the part where they started to laugh, because I'm not going to say, obviously, I'm not going to go into detail, but she told me details, and it's insane. Okay? Absolutely insane. She tells her friends, and they say, ask him where the address is. So Ellie messages Raphael and says, okay, sure, what's the address? And most guys would be a bit hesitant here. They'd be like, are you sure you're coming? Can you wait a bit sooner to Thursday? He just sends it straight away. And he doesn't even send the code to the property or the address of the road or the name of the house or whatever. No, he sends the Wikipedia page to the castle. And when she clicked this link from the text, she said that she looked at it and it literally looked, I don't know how to say this, it looked like the Disney castle. It was absolutely jaw-dropping. It had towers at the top, spires on the top. It was magnificent and massive. Now, around it, loads and loads of trees, forests, lawn for miles and miles, manicured perfectly. And she looked at this and just thought, okay, he does behave like he lives there. He does drive a $700,000 Rolls-Royce Cullinan. But is this a joke? Is this did he hire this place for a night so we could party? And she sends this to her sister and her friend, and both of them are like, oh, biggest joke ever. This guy's he's just trying to show off. The Rolls Royce was definitely rented, and he's just playing games with you. He's probably hired it for the night if it is real. I don't think we should go. And Ellie ponders on it for a couple of nights. The weekend comes, and then she ends up having a call with Raphael. And while he is on this call with her, he turns his video camera on. And sure enough, he is inside I mean, have you guys seen those medieval films where the knights are sat in those massive halls where they all have dinner, around those long stretching halls, long stretching tables where there's like 80 seats down either side? Like, not quite like Hogwarts because they're like benches. But just imagine any like medieval film, a knight sat at a prestigious dining table. And she said it was like that. Yeah, basically an entire hall, like the inside of a church. The ceilings had artwork of angels flying around. You had columns and pillars going up the side, like Greek architecture. And he was just there, yapping his mouth off, overconfident, same curly hair down to his neck. Good old Raphael, as she still knew him from the first date and even the first message on the dating app when they met. And she's thinking, okay, so he's either rented it for weeks, which would be lots of money, let's just say. And she started to think, this guy's legit. He actually owns a castle worth probably tens, if not hundreds of millions of euros in France. So the first thing she does is she sends screenshots of the video chat to her sister and her friend and says, look, I think this is real. This guy's got videos of him inside of this place. And he was video calling me just then, guys. So they have a moment where they don't even message each other. The sister and the friend were just looking at the video screenshots and they were like, questioning reality. How was this girl talking to my sister? And then the friend was thinking, how's this guy talking to my friend that I've known since, high school? And eventually they agree to go. Now, Ellie asks Raphael a few more questions: what to bring, what to dress sense, dress code, how many people will be there. It turns out there is no dress code. If they want to bring drinks, it will be better, and he'll like that. And that's about it. Yeah. So he said it's a big party. There's going to be around 100 people there, all different people's friends and families. So they end up going. And they go to the party. It is exactly how the Wikipedia page showed. And the sister and Ellie and her friend could not believe that this guy was legit. He wasn't lying. And everything there was, yep, sure enough, exactly how it was claimed to be. Oh, yeah, and by the way, just a key side note. When they turned up in her friend's little old car, they parked up on the front, a driveway the size of a soccer field. And, right, real overconfidence flex. He had not just the one Rolls Royce, oh no, Bugatti, Ferrari, Lamborghini, and these other hypercars, they call them, which are worth millions of dollars each. So, yeah. And the weird thing she couldn't understand was there was no like parents there, because this guy's still considered a young guy. But there were no older people there. She walked into the party past these cars, which probably altogether collectively worth tens of millions, and she goes in through this grand entrance, these gates, like proper medieval massive wooden gates with the steel plates and artwork of leaves on the outside. And they're open. There's people at the door serving like waiters, right? And they all go in, and it's packed. There's people in dresses, mini dresses, friends, people drinking, people playing games on the side. You got like ping pong, people, some other game or something, she explained. And they walked in there and they were like, this is a bit weird. It's like being in the club, because she expected them, when she saw the front and the waiters, she expected everyone to be in tuxedos, 3-piece suits, and, the ladies to have top hats on and things. And it wasn't the case. And apparently there's such a thing as a posh French accent as well, like we have posh British accents and posh American accents and things. Every country has their type of accents, and she said that she could mostly just hear standard accents, if not some of them sounded a bit like farmer accents, because France also has a lot of farming that they do, as well as Britain and other European countries, because most of the country is a lot of fields and grassland, and yeah, It was so off. It was like Raphael had invited the whole town. I didn't care who it was, as long as you were, attractive and you were nice and kept secrets and didn't reveal things to other people. He was happy with it. So they party. She bumps into Raphael a couple times. He don't really care. He's not having any of it. He won't spend any time with Ellie. He's not talking with her. He's talking to other girls, and she gets quite butthurt and jealous. And her sister and friends are like, we should get out of here. And they agree to stay a little bit longer. They've started talking to a couple of people. One lady who was actually studying to work in the town. And she had to get like some degree to do that job. And they were just, talking and chit-chatting away while everyone else was losing their minds, partying and throwing stuff around. Another thing she realized was that Raphael didn't seem to care if things got damaged. There were chairs that were launched at one point. A couple of fights started. Remember, this is 100 people. She predicted 100 to 150 people. It's not like 30 people. It's a lot of people, even for a big castle like that with a hall that is large. Eventually, Raphael notices that they seem to be drifting to the doorway, and they're going to the area where all the coats and jackets are hung up. And they rummage through all of the hundreds of different coats to find theirs, because everyone else had come later as well as before. People were leaving, new people were coming, and it was just totally unregulated, the whole thing. It was a shambles, and the inside was being damaged. There was alcohol spilt on the floor, there was chairs turned over, and he had this loud music booming, like this electronic music like you'd find in the clubs. As they're leaving, sure enough, as if Raphael wasn't watching the whole night, that he all of a sudden cares now they're leaving. And he runs over, he's, completely out of it. He's been taking all sorts of stuff as well as drinking. And he says, no, wait, Ellie, you've got to wait. I have to show you something later. Listen, all these people, do you know what? Get them out. And he yells at the waiters and says, get them out. He keeps yelling. He goes to the person playing the music, stops the music. He says, get them all out. And Ellie, her sister and a friend, and Raphael are taken upstairs into one of the towers of the castle, while everyone moves off and just drives away or stumbles off into the estate somewhere, which she said was around, hundreds and hundreds of acres. She said she was looking out the window and there's just people laying on the lawn, the freshly manicured lawn, and he didn't care, puking everywhere, and it was awful. Once almost everyone had left, including the guy doing the music. No idea who that was. She said it seemed like he was related to Raphael or looked a bit like him. Everyone had left. And at this point, it was around about 2 a.m. It was very late. And Ellie was saying, okay, they were chilling up in the tower. It was pretty cool. That's why Ellie stayed longer. They were getting to see other parts of the castle. And Raphael was now giving them more attention. And she thought, well, that's kind of nice because he's got everyone to leave to keep me here. So she felt special in that moment. Okay, master manipulation, keep track here. And after a while, they'd been up in the tower for around an hour. She was starting to think, look, it's late. It's really late. Her sister and her friend were falling asleep in the corner of this room, this tower room. And they had to walk up those spiral staircases to get there. And they're in these really comfy, like, leather chairs, there's ones that are like $5,000 each. And they were just, like, snoring, because they'd also been drinking, so it hit them pretty hard. And whilst they were sleeping, Raphael came up to Ellie, and apparently he changed. So he leans over Ellie, and he goes, I want to show you something, because I choose you. And he's slurring his words. He's very, very tired and, trying not to sleep as well. And Ellie was also tired. She hadn't drunk as much as her sister or friend. Raphael says, leave them here. And Ellie makes the mistake of doing that. But what happens doesn't happen to them. They're actually fine while they're in this tower. Raphael takes her down the winding staircase, down the tower, out into the hall. It's absolute carnage. No one's cleaned it up. They come out of the entrance, which is now shut. He's got to push this massive fortress gate open, which apparently he struggled to do. He had to use this weird pole to get it to go open, because he wasn't strong enough just to do it himself with his body. And as they walk out, it's cold. She remembers it being very cold. Even her jacket wasn't enough. She had, not brought enough layers or jackets. And he stumbles out and says, "Follow me, I want to show you something." And they walk off to the left. Now, everyone had left at this point. Even the people that had been, laying on the lawn had just somehow crawled away or moved. And they walk off into a wooded section at the left of the castle. And Ellie's like, "What are we doing? Why are we going here?" She thinks, is he going to try and like make out with me or do something weird in the forest? Because I'm not going to do that. And I'm going to turn around and leave. And he basically says, "I want to show you something." And she thought, okay, so he doesn't want to make out. What's going on? She goes to the forest. Ellie follows Raphael. They get into the forest. And she literally walks in the forest. And she said the first thing she sees is that someone is having a fire in the forest. And she thought, is there other people living here? Is there someone who lives in this forest? And he's telling her, come on, quick. Come on, I want to show you this. And she goes over to this fire. She gets there. It's a campfire, you guys. There's a clearing. There's no trees in the middle. The clearing is about the size of a large bedroom in a big house. And they've taken the trees down, but the stumps were still there. On top of the stumps were different belongings of some of the people who had been to that party. She remembered the woman that was wearing the bag that was on top of one of the stumps, because it was a crazy bag that had like a elephant ears as the shoulder strap and all this weird pattern. And she was like, "Raphael, what's this doing here? Did these people come to the forest?" And he goes, "Oh, I don't know." And he's just not answering any questions. And usually he's super confident. He knows what's going on. He's taking control. He says, "We're doing this. You're doing this. Do this." And he just wants her to follow him. It's a campfire. They arrive. It's a medium-sized campfire. And there's no one there. And Raphael says, "Come on, hold my hand. Stand around the fire. It's warm." And she does it. But she's on edge. She's like, this is weird. Why couldn't I bring my sister and my friend? Why did he say leave them to sleep? Are they safe? What's happening to them? So she's just standing around. She's looking around the forest because it's dark everywhere. Now the fire's lighting up, 30 yards in the distance every each way, but it's still pitch black everywhere further than that 30-yard distance perimeter. She notices out the corner of her eye that there's movement from all around the forest, and it's dark. It's a movement of a figure or a human, fairly tall. And as she keeps watching, she notices these movements and these figures are getting closer. And as they enter into that 30-yard perimeter, they reveal themselves. The light illuminates them. And you know that film that Tom Cruise was in called Eyes Wide Shut, where they're all wearing those dark robes with the really big hoods that go over their head? Sometimes the hoods are so big they cover their face, or there's just a shadow by their mouth because it's so big and overhanging. It was exactly like that. Now, she said there was over 10 people, and they were dotted around evenly in a circle surrounding her and Raphael. And when she saw these people, she became absolutely terrified, immediately turned around and went to run. Now, Raphael clearly was watching her body language or her movement, because before she could even take the second step away from the campfire, he had grabbed her whole body and kept her in place. And he's there like, "What are you doing? No, this is part of it. What are you doing? Stay here. This is part of it. Please stay here." And in that moment, as any of us would probably think, she's thinking, well, they're going to do something to me, and I'm probably not going to be alive in the next 10 minutes. So what do I do? Well, she can't do anything. She's surrounded by these very tall robed figures, and Raphael is holding her. Raphael is a 6'1" male, and he's much stronger than her. She starts screaming, and Raphael holds her mouth. And at this point, she said her adrenaline was so high that she started to feel lightheaded. They forced her to stand there, And during the whole experience, they didn't harm her once. Instead, the whole time, they took each belonging from each one of the tree stumps from people who had been there. They held it over this fire while chanting in some foreign, she said, Latin-sounding language, which she couldn't tell if it was actually Latin. And they were burning the belongings of the people who had visited. And she did a bit of research into this and thinks it was some kind of curse or ritual to do with power and taking the power from these people and their belongings in the spirit world. And they didn't do anything to her. She stopped struggling after, they burnt like the 8th thing. And it was bags, bracelets, hairbands, rings, shoes. People had left shoes. And she was so confused. These 10 tall robed figures were stood around, and you couldn't see their faces, but they were the ones burning these objects. And Raphael was watching this whole thing with the creepiest huge smile, ear to ear grin on his face, as if he was getting a buzz out of this, or as if he was getting some kind of energy from the burning of these objects and items. And she said that when this happened, she just stood there, and it took a while. They finished, and they backed away, all of them, turning around and walking exactly where they came from. And Raphael said to her, look, that wasn't so hard, right? And they both go back to the castle. Her sister and her friend are still there. Ellie is shaking like crazy. She thought she was about to be who knows what by these people or these beings. And Raphael takes a whole bunch more things from one of those trays with pills, and he just collapses and falls asleep. He doesn't care that they're even there. Now they've woken up, her friend and sister, by the time they get up to the top on the staircase, and Ellie's like, follow me now. She goes down the staircase, they get the hell out, they get in the car, and they leave. She never messes Raphael again. She had no idea who that guy was, why she had to witness what happened to those belongings, and so on and so forth. But 2 weeks later, the car that they drove there, which was her friend's car, totally broke. The whole engine completely broke, and they never ended up managing to fix it because the pistons had shattered or something. That's what she said. So it would need a new engine, basically, which would have cost thousands of euros. And it turns out that as they were driving home, her sister noticed that she had lost one of her bracelets. You know those bracelets that some of the girls wear? They look like hairbands. They're like fluffy and they're made of cotton. And sometimes they're shaped like flowers and with petals on. She has like 18 of those around both her wrists, apparently. It's some weird trend that some of the girls were doing in France. And she had lost one. And Ellie was trying to remember if that was one of the things that was burnt. And they're trying to associate it with the car. But, I mean, yeah. It's very, very creepy what she had to go through or what she had to experience. And what that guy was doing and why he was doing it. Very creepy. The next first date case I am going to be covering comes from Nampa, Idaho. And the specific experience that this lady went through was in Lake Lowell or Lowell. I don't know how you pronounce it, but no doubt there's some people from around there watching this video. This lady, who we are going to call Tasha, is in her mid-20s, and she was using Tinder and has been using it since she was 18. While she was on the app, she got a date with a guy who we're going to call Mark. And Mark was agreeing with her to go for a date to grab some pizza. It had been a long time, and they were going into the center of Nampa, and the idea was they were going to have a dinner and just, get to know each other. Now, some people are confident meeting strangers on dates, and some people aren't, but it's still important to take certain precautions and have safety in place. I'm not saying to be scared of every single person that you go out to meet, but I'm just saying that nowadays I guess it's not the same as our parents when, it was a lot more relaxed and there wasn't really any internet dating back then, especially in the 70s and the 80s. Now, Tasha was going to meet Mark at a pizza place in Nampa. They were going to grab some food, have a dinner together, and see if they got on. The initial kind of nerves of a first date are totally valid. You're trying to gauge if this person is potentially someone that you would want to spend the rest of your life with. And I know that sounds kind of weird or excessive, but the truth is unless you just date for the sake of it, or you date for attention, time, then it really is serious, like if you think about it. And Tasha wasn't messing around. I was reading her email and she was explaining to me how her goal was to try and find a long-term partner, a boyfriend who eventually get married. Now that's not easy in today's day and age, and she had her work cut out, but she was trying really hard. And by setting up this pizza date, she thought that she had, taken one step in the right direction. They got to the date. There's not really much to mention about the date itself. Everything goes well. She turns up and Mark's there early. He's a respectable young guy. He's dressed quite well. Not over the top for a pizza date, but he's dressed in like jeans, a buttoned up shirt, and he has like some smart kind of casual shoes on. She said that overall he was likable, nice. They had a lot of flowing conversation, but at times there was a few awkward silences, which are probably normal for a first date. Let's be real, you don't know the person. So Tasha was just sat there thinking, well, I'll wait for him to suggest a next date, right? We're going to go and maybe go to the park, maybe go for a walk, maybe go and grab some more dinner sometime, or go for drinks, or even a coffee in the morning, or, lunchtime. And she's waiting and waiting and waiting, and Mark's finishing off his pizza. They got massive pizzas, you guys. I remember when I went to Michigan a few years ago now to visit family, and I just remember the portion sizes are very, very big in some of these places. I'm not going to complain. I like it. There's some really good food in different plates all across the states. And some places you go to in Europe, you pay $30 and they come out with the tiniest bowl, something that's like 200 calories, and they've got these fancy leaves on it. And Tasha was just saying, look, we were full. We had two massive proper sized pizzas. He got garlic bread, cheesy garlic bread. He got drinks. And then the guy sat there and she's like, okay, I'm waiting for you to, say, should we get another date? I enjoyed tonight, And it wasn't coming. Like, he wasn't getting to that point of arranging another date. And it was already 10 p.m. And she was just thinking, please don't let me down. I've liked this date up until now. I'm attracted to you. I'm not going to be the one to organize a second date when I literally organized this date. She didn't want to be the one to organize all the dates. So she waits, and this guy looks up from his pizza. He's eaten a whole lot, right? And he says, I'm gonna get an ice cream. And she's like, look, I can't eat anymore. I'm absolutely full. She's getting frustrated at this point. She has to sit there. It takes like 10 minutes for the waiters to bring out the ice cream. He eats it. It's a massive like sundae in one of those glass jars, those kind of serving, those tall ones they put the ice creams in. It's more of a diner thing, but, and obviously more of a retro thing, a vintage thing. But he was just there for half an hour, chowing down on this like 9 scoops of all different flavors, flakes, sprinkles, syrup, chocolate syrup, toffee syrup. And she was just sat there twiddling her thumbs, occasionally checking her phone. And it was funny because she didn't know what to do. She wasn't going to up and leave. She liked this guy and she thought, okay, I'll wait another half an hour for him to finish his dessert and he'll be done. He'll ask me for a second date, which is what I want. But at the end, he doesn't ask for a second date. He finishes his ice cream. He lets out the loudest burp ever. People turn their heads for a second, and she gets pretty embarrassed. And Mark looks her in the eyes and says, do you want to go for a walk? I'm so bloated, I need a walk. And Tasha's like, where are we going to go for a walk, Mark? It's late. It's nearly getting on midnight. I have to get back. And he was like, oh, I know this really nice place with a lake. Yeah, and it turns out he was on about Lake Lowell. You spell it Lowell, I think. And apparently it's just outside of Nampa. I don't know how long the drive is, but Tasha wasn't aware of it. And she doesn't actually live in Nampa. She lives kind of off to the side of it. So she had never heard of this lake, which was kind of hard to believe, but not for my generation that doesn't even get outside and spends most of their time looking at a screen. So bear with me. Those are my boomer viewers. You will understand once you grasp the fact that most of them don't even go out hiking or enjoying the outdoors like I do. I'm a rarity of my generation. So she was like, oh, how far's the lake? Like, you know, what's it like? And he's like, oh yeah, it's a nice place. It's well lit. Families go there. It's picnic tables. I thought it would be peaceful, you know. And when Mark was saying this, he wasn't saying this in the slightest bit creepy. Tasha acknowledged that this guy was very calm, confident, but sometimes he didn't push. He didn't want to organize dates. He didn't want to hold her hand. He didn't want to open the door for her when they left the restaurant. So she got mixed signals from this guy because he wasn't coming across creepy, but he also was coming across slightly shy sometimes, but then confident when he's burping in front of her, downing 9 scoops of ice cream. You know, like it's like she's his sister or something, and they've gone out to grab a late dinner because they've been traveling on a road trip. But she agrees, and that's obviously a huge mistake. Now, I would not recommend ever doing anything like this. If it's nighttime, you've had a pizza date with a first date from Tinder or anywhere for that matter, any dating app or anywhere you've met them. If they propose to you, do you want to go to a lake, a reservoir, or a park to walk? Even if it's the most, central New York, most lit up, floodlit park in the world, I wouldn't recommend it, guys. It's not a thing that you would do on a first date. It's not safe, in my opinion. So she makes the mistake of saying, yeah, sure. And she explained the reason she made this mistake is because she truly believed that his description, how Mark described Lake Lowell, was a kind of park where there were buildings, where there were streetlights everywhere around the lake, and where there would be people even at 11 p.m. So not the quickest of thinkers, Tasha, and she admitted that. So I won't ponder on that part too long because I don't want to be nasty. But she made a massive mistake, and it was extremely dangerous. So she gets into his truck, and they drive on down. He paid for all the meal, which was very respectable, and she mentioned that as well. But what he did next was not very respectable at all. And the whole time they're driving, they're blaring tunes, windows down. It's a beautiful evening. It's not too cold. And it's, good vibes. She still was a bit bloated, like him, from eating way too much pizza. But eventually it started to wear off around, 10, 20 minutes into the journey. And as the bloating started to wear off, she kind of zoned out a bit, and she was like, whoa, how far are we driving here? It's like we've been in this car 20 minutes and we're still going. So she makes a point to look over to him, and she basically says, hey, how much further is it to this Lake Lowell? And he looks over to her and says, it's literally just around the road. It's just down here. And sure enough, it was just down there, but it was quite a drive, she said, compared to what she was expecting. And when they get out there, it's nothing like she expected. She said it was like a nature reserve, a national park, but with a lake. Yes, there were picnic tables. Yes, there were areas that looked like people would be there and it would be busy, but that's during the day. Not at night, which was now getting on pretty much midnight at this point. Now, she said, she didn't deny that it was beautiful. The lake was absolutely beautiful. The moonlight was reflecting off the lake. Her and Mark got out the truck and walked over to the lake closer to it, and they stood there and just relaxed. And when she got over to this lake, her nerves, her suspicions, her anxieties dropped. and almost basically disappeared. At this point, she trusted Mark too much, I wouldn't say with her life, because she was still, aware of what was going on and still a bit hesitant as to what the hell this place was, because it wasn't as he described it when they were eating dinner at the pizza place. So she's standing there, she relaxes more, and this point they haven't held hands, they haven't, hugged, they haven't kissed. That's it. She said when she got there, he was already there, and he said, "Hi, great to see you," and sat down. They didn't make any body contact or physical contact. So bear that in mind, because that's what makes the next bit extremely weird and creepy. Mark immediately proposes that they start making out by the lake. And he starts off saying, "It would be real romantic if, we started making out right now." And that made Tasha cringe real hard. She immediately her thoughts went sour. She was like, "Ugh, this is not how you go about it." Like, the way he was saying it was just like creepy as hell. And she didn't like it. She said, she said in her mind, she was like, "Yeah, that's not happening." But she went, "Oh yeah," and kind of laughed it off as a joke, a very awkward joke, mind you. And while she was still stood there at this lake, he isn't looking away. And imagine someone asks you a question, and 45 seconds later, they're still staring at you, waiting for an answer, as if they didn't take the nervous giggle as the answer. This is what Mark was doing. And the whole time Tasha could see, out of the corner of her right eye, in her peripheral vision, that he was staring right at her. And he was either awestruck by her beauty, or he was being very creepy and pushy in regards to the previous statement he said about, "Wouldn't it be cute making out right now?" This is when Tasha started to feel really uncomfortable, and she realised a mistake that we all realised back at the pizza place, which was agreeing to come all the way out to Lake Lowell at midnight, and him being the only form of transport for her. Effectively, she was in a very vulnerable position where the person who drove her all the way out here and was her lift back was now trying to pressure her into making out. And this is where things escalated pretty bad. He kept then staring at her, and she, at this point, awkwardly turned around and went back to the truck. Now, this was once again, you could argue a bad mistake or even a good mistake. It depends. Listen to what happens next. She gets into his truck, it's unlocked, the music is still blaring out. No one's at the lake, it's empty. And she's just trying to signal, "I want to go back." She tries to pretend that she's cold, even though it's not a cold night. That doesn't work. He comes over to the truck and still starts staring at her. He's still doing that creepy stare where he's just looking right at her. And she said she doesn't think she's felt that uncomfortable in her entire life. She just ignored it. She started to make conversation, small talk. "So, have you come out to this lake before? Has your family used to come here? When did you first come here?" Like complete empty nonsense questions to get his mind off of whatever he was thinking about, which was clearly extremely creepy and nefarious. Now, these questions Mark didn't even answer. In fact, he would just basically answer with one word: no, yes, love it. All the kind of just deflection. He's trying to get back onto the thing that Tasha does not want him to get back onto, which was the topic of making out. And it made sense. She realised that the reason he drove all the way out there wasn't in fact to go on a walk around the lake, because they hadn't done that. Nope, they'd come back to the truck and he had not mentioned the walk once. He had been obsessive and creepy over the making out part and was still staring directly at her. Now, the only option she had at this point was to try and call her family or one of her friends, or just walk back. But she still figured she would put up with this and eventually wait for him to drive her back, because she didn't want to be left there on her own while he drove off, and she didn't want to completely make the situation unbearably awkward, where she would say, "I'm not kissing you," and then it would get so unbearably awkward, which I agree, that's also very awkward probably. He doesn't allow her to pick that option. He doesn't give her the luxury of choosing that. Um, he's ignoring all her questions, and he starts to move in. Now, as he moves in, he places his right hand on her thigh and moves forward to kiss her. And at this point, she does what most ladies who don't want to kiss a guy would probably do. She takes her palm up, raises it, and pushes it directly on his nose, pushing his face away. Sorry, it's not a laughing matter, but it's just, I can just picture it. It's like the that noise they do. It's like, no, not today, sorry. And it just pushed him by his nose back into his seat. Sorry, no. And in that moment, Mark was so humiliated that he turned back to her. He didn't try to kiss her again. He just said, "Get out my truck." And she said she's never seen him that pissed the whole night. He just said, "Get out my truck now." So, feeling very awkward and very in danger at this point, she did it. She got out into a total dark reservoir with a lake, with no way of having anyone come to collect her for probably half an hour, or longer if it was her parents who also lived outside of the area. So the guy backs up, does a U-turn, and drives off down the lane. He actually leaves her there at this reservoir in Lake Lowell, and she's stranded. She ended up having to call her friends to pick her up. It took them 40 minutes to get there. And that whole time, she was feeling two things: disgusted and terrified. She was disgusted that Mark had done this to her and betrayed her, lied to her, and forced himself, and she was terrified. She had nothing but her phone, flashlight, and she just sat on a picnic table and was very, very scared. She didn't know what was going to happen. She didn't know who was there. She didn't know what type of animals or wildlife was in the area at night. She had no idea. So she was very scared. And she sat there shaking and crying to herself for the 40 minutes that it took for her friend to arrive. And when her friend arrived, she was a savior. They got in the car, she drove home, and she never reported this. She never spoke about it. She was very uncomfortable about this interaction. She was very embarrassed about it. She doesn't like to tell. She told her friend that picked her up to please not tell her parents, please not tell her other friends. She was embarrassed that this had happened. She realized what a silly mistake she made, but at the same time, she trusted a guy that she should have been able to trust, And unfortunately, he thought that she would want to do something that she didn't, and it backfired massively. It completely backfired real bad for him. Ladies and gentlemen, this next encounter is even creepier than the last one, and I actually got the opportunity to talk to this lady. She is called Charlotte, and she does track and field. Her event is specifically the 800 meters on the track, and she's pretty fast. Her PR was around 2:13, which for her age is very fast. And this is a first date encounter that she had that is not only creepy, but very funny at the end. It's funny, but it's really only funny because she was with others. If she was with alone, this would have been dangerous. So this is a cinema date that she arranged with a guy through, yet again, another dating app, as it seems like it's the only way people meet anymore, which is kind of sad, but yeah, whatever. You have to put up with it nowadays. No one talks on the streets anymore in real life. And the date she actually went on with this guy was really, really bad, because it turns out that it wasn't even a date. And the guy was supposed to be at the cinema with her, watching one of the new films a few years ago. And the goal was that they were going to watch this film, while eating some popcorn and enjoy a meal out afterwards. They'd been talking for around 2 months at this point. She'd been training really hard. She had track meets on at the weekends, so she denied a lot of his attempts to meet up at the weekend. He was working pretty strenuously in an office job in the city, so he couldn't meet up during the week. So eventually, when she had a free weekend, 2 months after meeting him on the dating app, they agreed that they would go and watch a movie. So that's what they did. They arranged which cinema to go to, and they chose the film they were going to watch. When she turned up, he was not there, so she immediately was like, oh, it's a no-show. But she texts him, and he's like, no, I'm in traffic. I'm on my way. Hold up, it's bad traffic. I think there's been an accident or something. So he tells her over text to go into the cinema. So Charlotte just grabs a bunch of like pick and mix sweets. She grabs like a cola, and I think he asked for like a Fanta or something. And she gets some popcorn, like a large family-sized pot of popcorn. She takes it into the movie, and this like cinema or movie theater, whatever you guys call it, was extremely busy. And he had texted her the seats that he bought, so she knew where to look. And he could like give her the tickets on her phone or something, send them over, I think a code or a barcode. So she did that, got in. Sure enough, they're two pretty decent seats. They're like the VIP ones with the extra room. And they're like at the top of the cinema, the theater, so they had extra leg room. She goes in, notices it's absolutely packed. This is a super popular film back a few years ago that just came out. And they go down, she goes down. He hasn't arrived at this point. She goes down into the theater, and this is what he told her to do. He said, just go on in, I'll find you later. And when she gets there, she sits down, the commercials are playing, as they do before the film starts, and she just starts like snacking on the popcorn and the sweets. So she's actually really worried. She's apprehensive. What's this guy going to be like? It's about to start. He's going to be late. He's going to interrupt everyone and, annoy a bunch of people, because people have to stand up, in the rows if someone walks in or goes to the restroom halfway through. So it became a massive problem of her basically just panicking as the commercials went on by. Now, as things started to progress, he was still not there. She kept sending him texts saying, it's going to start soon. There's only 10 minutes till it actually begins. And he kept replying saying that there was a really bad accident that meant that the road he was trying to get down was being shut basically. He was one of the first cars to get to an accident, and one of the cops had arrived and started to shut the road and redirect the traffic back up the separate side of the highway or something. And to get round it, he had to take a massive detour. He was looking at his GPS on his vehicle, and it was saying that it was going to add a whole bunch of time. So she's there thinking, oh, great. I bought all this stuff. He sent me the tickets. He kindly paid for the seats, these VIP seats, which aren't that cheap compared to the other ones. And he's not even going to be here to enjoy it with me. I'm literally on a date with myself. I'm on my own here. But she couldn't do anything about it, Hopefully the person in the accident was okay. He didn't know, but it looked pretty bad when he turned around. There was a lot of damage to someone's car. And when he finally ends up getting in the route change, the direction change, his GPS configures to miles out. So Charlotte is sat there waiting for him to arrive, and the film starts. She knew it was going to. She puts her phone away, she puts it on airplane mode, and she just starts watching the film. Now, around about 25 minutes into the film, someone walks down the aisle and starts walking down through to her seat next to her. And she's like, oh, it's him. He's here. Well, he didn't text me. He's outside. He didn't say he's in the parking lot or anything. So she was very confused, why wouldn't he be better with communication and say he was there? But she didn't care. She was kind of caught up in the film. It was a good film. And she turned and looked and she was like, oh, he's here. Remember, the lighting in the cinema theaters is very low. It's very dark. And they literally have no lighting apart from the cinema and like a fire escape sign or flashy light at the bottom where you go if there's a fire to get out the building. But she said that the film they were watching was very dark. It was actually a horror film. So most of the frames and scenes were in darkness, which didn't help. You literally couldn't see where you were going, and you couldn't see people's faces even inches away from you. I think some of you can probably see where this is going, and it's not really that good, let's just say that. So Charlotte sees this guy, he walks over, and sure enough, he sits down in her seat. And she just says while watching the film, hey, nice to meet you. And the guy goes, hey, nice to meet you back. Now, at this point, Charlotte had not video called her date. She didn't know what his voice sounded like, but she glanced over and saw this guy looked roughly the similar height and was pretty much in similar clothing that she expected or predicted him to be wearing. When she finally got watching the film and relaxing, something extremely awkward happened. Her date ended up reaching over and putting his left hand on her thigh, so similar to the last encounter with Tasha. But it was very awkward for her. However, she knew that he was kind of flirty. He had sent texts flirting. He had sent like gym photos with his top off and stuff. She was attracted to him. And he wasn't really like squeezing or anything. He's just resting his hand there. So she was like, okay, bit weird for a first date, but I'm just going to let it slide. It actually starts to get a bit weirder when he works his way up the thigh, moving his hand around, and she's just there like, okay, this is a bit weird. But after a while, he stops doing it, and he actually takes his hand back and starts drinking a drink that he bought in for himself. The first thing she realized that was a bit off was that he wasn't having any of the Fanta that she had bought for him. Now, she put her drink in a cup holder in the seat next to her. There was no one in that seat. And his Fanta was in the one right to her, on her right. So it was in his cup holder. And he wasn't drinking it. Now, she said that it was his, but he was drinking one in the other cup holder to his right. So she was like, that's weird. Maybe he just grabbed his own drink. Again, dark scenes, nighttime kind of horror movie. She hasn't even turned her head to look who this guy is or what could he be possibly doing that would maybe put me in a little bit of danger or give me a bit of a jump scare. Well, around about another hour passes and the movie finally ends. And when the lights come on, you guys, she turns to look at him and it's a guy who looks to be in his late 40s. And when that happened, he had placed his hand back on her right thigh. And she let out the loudest scream that she has ever let out in her entire life. And in that moment, everyone in the theater looked up at her directly in her direction and thought, what's going on? She was screaming because the guy she thought was her date was actually a creepy older dude that had just decided to sit next to her, seeing that she was alone in the VIP area, and he had been resting his hand on her thigh for the whole time. She got up, she left her popcorn, left her sweets, and just paced out of that theater. Everyone was looking at her like, what's going on? Now she takes out her phone, and she had 6 missed texts from her actual date. The reroute of that accident was a further 18 miles, a completely separate highway, where he had to go through a different town to get to an adjacent highway on the other side to get to this area, like a complex with a mall, I think Walmart, and a Dollar Tree, and like these different stores. And it was going to take him ages. He didn't even get there until way after. And this guy, who was nothing to do with the date, a random dude, ended up sitting next to her and just, doing what I just said. She gets out of there and she calls the cops. She's standing by security of this cinema complex and she's just like, I want this guy arrested. He is not my date. So the guy's on the way out of the complex because she was waiting with security. Security tries to apprehend him, but they can't really hold him down. I don't know what the laws are and all that and the policies, but he takes off. He runs out and he's off. The cameras picked him up running to a vehicle in the parking lot, and he drove off. And another 20 minutes later, after he fled, the actual date arrives. And when he arrives, he is so annoyed that he has missed the entire movie. But when he finds out what Charlotte just had to experience, he was even more annoyed and couldn't even believe that she had to experience this. So they end up calling the cops. They arrive, they take a look at the footage, they talk to security, they talk to Charlotte, they ask her to go chronologically through what happened, who she thought he was, what did he say, what did he do, and she wrote up a report about what was happening, and they investigated further. They ended up finding the guy, they arrested him, and that was taken care of. Justice was definitely served. I'm not going to go into detail on what happened to him, but she ended up getting justice. But nothing will ever help her from feeling as uncomfortable as she did in that cinema for the split second she looked to her right and saw a guy with half a beard, kind of wrinkles, and same build, like body structure as her date, similar weight, similar height, but the face was totally off. It was late 40s, early 50s, way older than she was and way older than her date was supposed to be. So as you can imagine, when she saw this, she was extremely scared. And it didn't put her off dating, it just put her off the cinema, which I think is totally rational. She did go on a real date with her actual date, and it was very, very successful. And I'd like to bring you guys all the good news that she is now with this guy, and they are getting married very, very soon. He proposed to her last April, and it went really, really well. But that is an experience that she will never ever forget. She will retell this experience time and time again, and it's something that she will learn from, because you do not want to be making these types of mistakes in dates. Although the second encounter that we covered today is definitely one where that was the worst mistake. Going out to a reservoir, going out to a lake, to somewhere with someone you don't fully know, it's your first time meeting them. However, the cinema one that Charlotte went through is, when you look back on it, it's funny, it's a memory, it's comical. Yes, it's creepy, but the guy was brought to justice. The second one's the saddest, because in my opinion, Mark did wrong. He should have been brought to justice, and unfortunately, Tasha chose not to take any action. She was scared, she was uncomfortable, and she was embarrassed. And you can't look back at that and see any good feelings. You know, she still thinks back to that encounter. She still feels uncomfortable. She's still slightly embarrassed by it. And obviously I've changed all the names. But it was hard for her. You know, I think Charlotte got over her experience way easier. And it was just, yeah. It was really difficult for her to handle that situation because she didn't see it coming. She saw a goofy guy eating 9 scoops of ice cream after a massive pizza, jokingly offering a moonlit walk at midnight along a beautiful Lake Lowell, and it wasn't what he had in the store at all. He changed totally. He changed from being a nice guy, down to earth, chatty, to just staring at her as if he was like an animal, uncontrollable. You know, he was like, I'm going to make out. That's what I want to do. We're not going for a walk anymore. This is what we're doing. So, I mean, it's just stories like these and encounters that make people less trustworthy, and it also makes people very paranoid, which is why before all of these, I like to always say, do not get worried, do not get paranoid, do not feel like you are going to experience these, because they are not as common as you would like to believe. Remember, I have this channel with almost 250,000 subscribers, so I have access to a lot of people around the world and their encounters. So it's not like this is happening to everyone in their life or their dating life. A lot of people use these dating apps and they have great success, they have great memories, and they make great connections. But the truth is, there is always that slight little bit of danger. And I offer advice and a lot of different types of tips and tricks from my own opinions in how to deal with this. So yeah, don't go on that night walk on the first date. And if you do go to a house party, if it's a castle in southern France, maybe be careful. And also, yeah, definitely take some friends, and maybe don't go into the forest, because yeah, you don't know what they're going to do. Anyway, I hope you're all well. I hope you're doing good. Thank you everyone for joining me for today's encounters. If this is your first time here, please click the red subscribe button down below and maybe consider leaving a like on this video. That's the only way I really ask you to support the channel, and it really means a lot to me. So yes, I'll see you guys all in the next upload. Thank you.